Well, I didn't think of myself as a woman at the bar. This is something that's come with modern women. I just thought of myself as a barrister at the bar, and I'm sure Joan Rosenove never thought of herself as a woman at the bar. I think she knew she was the best divorce practitioner in Melbourne.
Did you expect to practice in common women crime at the bar?
I would have liked to have practiced in crime, but of course Mrs. Rosenove put no to that because she was so well known for divorce that it was assumed women couldn't do anything, of course, here. But if we could do anything, we must be able to do divorce.
Tell me about how you became involved in the Ryan case.
Well, I was doing my Masters then, and I was still on the Victorian Bar roll. I'd moved to the non-practising list, and my husband rang me up at 2 o'clock in the morning and said, because I had appeared with Opus in several cases here before I left, and he said, well, he wants to know whether or not you will appear as his junior at the Privy Council in the Ryan trial. Well, I didn't even know who, so I said, who the hell is Ryan? So he said something about who Ryan was, and I said, I can't do it. And so he went on and on. And I said, well, look, first and foremost, I can't, because I said I'm on the non-practising list in Victoria. And I said, I'm not in a set of chambers in London, so I can't appear as an English barrister. So I said, so somebody will have to move me back onto the practising list. Well, the answer came back that Opus had got permission from the bar in Victoria, you see, for me to appear. So this was only something to save me the fees. So then ultimately he came over and brought the brief with him, and then he arrived early to avoid the press. And while I was writing him a letter to deliver to his hotel on my views on the Ryan trial, and so it went, and we just did the Ryan trial.
And there was a fella from Melbourne who gave you some grief, I believe.
Who told you that,
You
Nat?
did, about poking you in the shoulders.
Oh, he nearly drove me mad. He was from the Victorian Bar. Well, he turned up, you see, too. And he did his very best to get rid of me and take the case over. But Opus wasn't having any of this. And I only wish to God he had. So I just ignored him in the end. I don't know what his name was. I must have heard it. But I never want to see that gentleman again.
Mary Kingston, known as Molly, arrived from Western Australia, where together with Sheila McClemens, she'd previously set up WA's first all-women legal practice in the 1930s. Warwick Teasdale, then an article clerk at Melbourne law firm Ridgway Pearson Friedman, remembers Molly.
I first met Molly in probably late 1969, early 1970. Molly was a barrister who was used a lot by the firm at that stage, and particularly Jim Pearce used her as a barrister because he did a lot of family law work, matrimonial work at that stage.
What was her style like in court?
Molly was a fairly stylish lady, actually. She was tall and she was handsome, I suppose. She was quite striking because she had silver hair, and she held herself very erect, and she was very proper. And her court style was for a woman, and there weren't all that many women at the bar in those days. She could be fairly, if necessary, fairly pugnacious. She was very forceful, and she would make a point and persist, with that point. I think one of the benefits that she had, and I saw in particular, was that she knew most of the because it was all in the Supreme Court in those days, and she knew most of the Supreme Court judges, and she knew them well. They used to treat her as a certain amount of camaraderie between them. They would be quite forceful with her, however, but Molly would always bounce back. She was a good and very thorough preparer, but in court, and that was your question, I think, in court she would not hesitate in what she was saying. She would not have cross-examination set out, question after question. She would just follow the theme, and she was quite good at doing that. She was not fazed by any comments from the other end of the bar table, or from the bench for that matter. She was never fazed by that, and she would plug on.